Sorry, I'm dressed down more than I usually am in my videos, but I just got up a couple hours ago and I just had this bug to get up and start practicing particular lighting because yesterday one of my students had showed me this image of this little girl sitting by a candle. And it was a really beautiful image, and I'd show it to you in the video, except I always worry about copyright, so I'll just put a link down to it or something similar down below. But when I looked at it, I was really impressed. I was like, this is really interesting. And then I also realized that I've never taken an image that looks like it was being lit by candlelight. So I said, oh, okay, I'm going to practice and I'll get back to you. So that was part of the inspiration for me when I got up this morning. And hopefully I succeeded. You let me know what you think. But I'm going to show you what I did to create this image. And it's relatively simple because when I looked at that image, I could clearly see there was at least 2 lights plus the candle. So there's 3 light sources in that image, and then of course some editing as well. So I said, I think I can do that. So let me give you a quick tour of the overall setup, and my image is going to be very different than the one that she had showed me originally because, you know, I'm not like a 5-year-old girl and I'm not going to wear a dress. And because I was wearing all these sweats and everything, it kind of sparked the idea, let me try something a little bit dark and gritty. Self-portrait, something I hadn't done before, because normally I've been doing sort of these grandiose, you know, very fancy type self-portraits, and this would be a very different look than I'd done before. So it's a lot of reasons I kind of got inspired to make an image like this and to share it with you as well. So basically I'm just going to be sitting in this chair with the candlelight, and I have a 24-inch octabox here with a grid on it, and then I have 2 flashes. In this case they're Godox V1s. It doesn't really matter what flash it is because they don't have to be very powerful or anything. This flash here, I have some barn doors and a grid on it, and that's just so I can focus the light or shape it a little bit. If you don't have the barn doors and grids, it's okay. Just use some aluminum foil and tape so that you can shape the light or narrow it down. Or if you have a snoot might be a little bit too narrow, but some aluminum foil works just as well. And I'm going to put this light down here. And I'm going to put it down here nice and low to shine up so that when the light hits my face, it's coming in an upward direction, creating shadows over my nose bridge and in an upward direction, just like the candlelight might be doing. And so this angle is going to go right towards where I'll have my face. And also I want to make sure that the flash is not behind the candle and being blocked by the candle, causing a shadow. So I'm going to move the flash just a little bit to the left side of it so that it's not being blocked by the candle. And again, just pointing straight up. All right, now for the softbox, I'm going to put this behind me as close as I can, and also a little bit further back. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So let me put it roughly into position, and I'll get a better feel for it when I sit down. But the reason I want to put it as close as I can to the back of my head is because I want the light to fall off very quickly. Because I think there's a rule of square, I don't know. Anyway, the closer you put the light, the faster it falls off, and it's not going to illuminate the table and the candlelight quite as much as it's going to illuminate the back of my head. Because if I put this light further back, it's going to evenly light the scene a little more than it would as I'm putting it closer. So that's why I'm going to put it very, very close. But it's going to be at a very low power, so it's not going to like overexpose. And then I have the grid on here, again, because I don't want the light to spread behind here where I have all this clutter. Because when I go into post-processing, I'm going to add a background. So I took this shot or this image with the intent to replace the background, but I want to make the background as dark or as clean as possible. So adding a grid keeps the light from spreading, you know, back towards the back. All right, now let's talk about the camera gear and setup. And I did a whole video on everything I did here to do self-portraits and my workflow for that. It's helped me out a lot so I can work faster and just focus on being creative. But basically I have here my EM5 Mark III with the 14-42 kit lens. I have the remote trigger set up here so I can take the picture while I'm sitting there. And then I have the flash remote trigger here to control the flash output power if I need to. And then over here I have the monitor so I can see myself and set up the composition and how I pose and my facial expression. So let me turn this on. And I've done a full reset on the camera, but this should come up here in a second. So I can see all of the settings here on the camera. So let's go to the screen and I'll show you the settings I used. All right, so you can see these are all the default settings. The first thing I'm going to do is just go into manual mode. And we have default setting 2/50th of a second at 5.6. And I'm using my EM5 Mark III with 14-42 kit lens. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my ISO to the base ISO of 200. And I'm going to change my white balance to a custom white balance of 14,000. And the reason I'm doing that is because when you fire your flash, it's going to produce a very daylight type light, white light. But I want the light to be yellow. So as you can see, the scene is now very yellow. So when the flashes fire, they're going to produce a very yellow light as well because I've changed the white balance. A couple other things I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to shoot in RAW. So that's good there. And we're fine there. Okay, so let's just do a test shot. Now in a studio setting, typically what you want to do is your first shot should just be a blank slate, meaning completely black. So let's see if these settings will crush all of the ambient light that we're, kind of leaking through. And yeah, you can see that's pretty much black. There's a little bit of light leak here and here, but that's okay because I'm going to crop this square. So this is not going to be a problem. And these are dark enough that they're easy enough to fix in post. Let me just change one other quick setting in here so that each time I take a picture, it'll automatically show it so I don't have to push the play button. So that way, while I'm sitting down in the chair here, after I take the picture, it'll display on the screen and stay up. It won't just kind of flash and turn off again. All right, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and light up the candle, and then we'll do another test shot. Okay, that's not bad. It's a little dark down here in the base. I want it to glow a little bit more. So I can do that a couple of ways, right? I can lower the aperture. With a kit lens, I can't go much lower. Or I can lower the shutter speed. Now, and I can raise the ISO, right? But shutter speed is the only one that doesn't affect the flash power. Meaning, whatever I set the flash power to, it's going to remain that bright in the scene if I only change the shutter speed. If I change the aperture or the ISO, that's going to affect how much light you see from the flash. But when you change shutter speed, it doesn't affect the flash output. It only affects the ambient light. So I want a little bit more light coming off this candle. So I'm going to reduce my shutter speed rather than changing ISO and aperture. So let's just drop it down one stop, down to 1/125th, and take a shot here. Okay, that's pretty good. And now the next thing I want to do is, because we're in very low light, the camera may have trouble focusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the candle, and the candle is going to be on the same focal plane as my face. So if I'm focused on the candle, my face will be in focus. So let's do that first. And then go into the Super Control panel and change this to manual focus. So now every time I take a picture, it's not going to refocus. It's always going to be focused on the candle. Now let's do a test shot with me in it and see how that looks. And that's good. My face is not illuminated or anything. Now let's turn on the flash by the table right here. All right, I have two flashes set up here. I have Group A. This is the softbox that'll be behind me. And then Group B is going to be the flash down by the table. So let's turn off the grid box and see how the table flash looks all by itself. So we're going to select Group A and then turn it off. And I'm going to start at 1/128th power, the lowest power, and see how that looks. And again, I'm going to line up my face with the candle here. All right, that looks really good. I think I might need it just a little bit brighter though. So I'm going to turn up the power slightly. All right, so let's increase the flash on group B, the one by the table, about 2/3 of a stop. And then I'm going to turn on flash A, which is the softbox. And I've already tested this and I came up with a 1/32 power. Okay, I'm going to put my hood on. And let's do a quick shot here. Oops, put my leg up. Okay. That way I look a little bit more like I'm sitting on the floor. And I'm going to hide the trigger just under my arm here. Okay, not bad. Just lean forward a little more. Okay, I think that looks good. All right, so I'm pretty happy with how this came out. I don't think I need to adjust the power on the grid in the back. It's illuminating my head and my shoulders and legs pretty well without illuminating the table or anything over here too much. And there's good light on my face, so I think this is pretty much ready for post-processing. I'm just going to crop in a little tighter so that these things aren't in the frame and we should be good. All right, now let's do a quick edit to this. I'm just going to apply a basic preset that does noise reduction and optical corrections and a little bit of lighting adjustment. And then from here, I'm going to make a nice square crop so we can crop out the lighting, and let's try and get rid of some of this ambient light that kind of leaked in. So I'm just going to simply just use a gradient like that and pull the exposure down, and then we'll do some radial gradients for the rest of it. Something like that. Maybe a little bit down in this corner, and we'll just drop the exposure on those. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glow down here on the table. So we'll just raise the exposure on that. And I think we're good. Let me just brighten my face a little bit. So we'll come in here and we'll just add a little bit like that. And maybe on some of my shoulder and leg here. All right, good enough. Let's take this into Photoshop. And we'll add a background. So we're going to export as TIFF. All right, so let's do select subject. See how far that gets. It's going to be hard for Adobe to figure it out because it's so dark. So we're going to help it out by just adding in a little bit over here. And then we're going to add the table and the candle. All right, that's good. And let's connect it down here. All right, now let's invert it. And we'll do generative fill. And let's do abandoned house. And sometimes it takes a few iterations. Maybe we'll get lucky on the first one. No. No. Let's try one more time. What I'm looking for is a little bit of a window or something behind me. Yeah, there we go. That's good. And I need to touch it up a little bit. It's kind of overlapped on my nose a little bit, so let's adjust the mask. Tiny bit. Like that. A little bit on my eye. Let's see, how's my arms look? and legs. This all looks good. The candle got messed up a little bit, so we'll add that back in. I don't know what that is, but okay. All right, now let's take this back in the photo lab and make a couple of more minor adjustments. All right, the light over here is a little bit too bright, so I'm just gonna add a gradient to darken that, like so. Let's see. Back this up a little bit. Okay, I think that's it. So just a little project I was working on this morning. I wanted to share it with you. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you'd like me to make more videos like this, just let me know in the comments below. And if you want to support what I do here, you can make a small donation on links below because they are greatly appreciated and they do help me out a lot. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.